Alright geezers, how are we? I certainly know how I am. A little bit of a weird one today, to be honest, waking up after the England versus France match last night, and to be honest, I feel more apathetic about this one than I did the previous times England have been knocked out of major tournaments in recent years. Maybe, if I'm going to speak candidly, that is partly to do with the fact that it was a Spurs player that was at the epicenter of this one rather than an Arsenal player in the Euros. It just feels as though now England are kind of at a bit of a crossroads in where they want to get to, because during the World Cup in 2018 no one expected England to get to the World Cup semi-finals, and so it was a massive boost for the country and also gave us something to rally behind moving forward at the Euros. Look, we missed out on pens. It could have gone either way. This one, with a potential run that we could have had if we'd got past France, it looked as though this could be a great chance to win the World Cup. We didn't go in to the tournament in great form, having lost, to Italy and getting battered by Hungary. But the way that we'd played ourselves into form, it felt like it was a bit of a different one this time around. If I'm honest, I'm not going to do too much talking about the actual game last night. I think it's kind of self-explanatory. I'll touch on it, but I'm more interested really in looking ahead to see, where England go from here, because you've got a manager with a year and a half or so left on his contract, but it's international football and the contracts don't necessarily mean too much. You've got a captain now in Harry Kane who is going to need a good team around him, because doing that, missing a penalty, and the biggest moment arguably of his career, it takes it out of you. It's gonna set you back. As an Arsenal fan, I know what it was like with Saka, and Kane's not going to get the same sort of racist abuse as Saka got, most likely. But it's something that you're going to need a good team of people around you to support you, because, well, I sympathise with the guy, to be honest. But touching on the game last night, I think it's important to do that, and I think that we played decent enough football. I described it last night to my friends as saying that we huffed and we puffed, and some people were saying that it was more than that and England were the better team. I don't really want to get into refereeing decisions because that just winds me up, but I think that throughout the course of the night some refereeing decisions did go against us, but that's football. What I was impressed with was the fact that Southgate didn't revert to a back five. I think fair play to him for sticking with a back four, because when a team gets strong enough to say to the opposition, look, we don't need to change our tactics for you, you have to deal with us, we're strong, why don't you try and take us on and counter our strengths with changing your own tactics. There was no point going to a back five, and I think fair play to Gareth for doing that, because he does get touted as somewhat of a defensive merchant and all that sort of thing. And so I was glad to see that it was a back four, and I thought Walker, to be fair, the build-up to the whole game was Walker versus Mbappe, and Mbappe got him for pace on one occasion, I think, in the second half, where he stopped and he burst back into speed again, and it was impressive, because you never really see anyone outpace Walker, and he did manage to do it. But I think in the whole, Mbappe was fairly quiet. He looked dangerous when he was on the ball, and part of that might just be because it's Mbappe, and he does typically just look quite dangerous as a player, and with all the build-up and all the hype around him, you kind of, you're anticipating some sort of quality whenever he's on the ball. So I think that kind of was one of the reasons as to why he looked so threatening every time he was in possession. But I do think that England held their own in the first half as well. At half-time I was saying I felt okay. I thought 1-0 fine. You come out the blocks and you never really know what's going to happen. Because Saka did look dangerous, and I think the fair play to him, because throughout the whole game he was kind of the only real one looking to make something happen. The penalty that he won was a stonewall penalty. There's nothing you can say to counter that, to be honest. We scored it, and then Olivier Giroud regained the lead for France when we were in the ascendancy, and then Harry Kane had a moment that's I don't know how to describe that sort of a moment, because Harry Kane's a phenomenal penalty taker and a great striker of the ball, and I think Harry Kane now needs to have a long think about what he wants to do with his career, because after Spurs lost the Champions League final, it's my understanding that a lot of the Spurs players, second guessed themselves in their position at the club because they thought this is as far as we're going to go. Harry Kane's 29 and he's never won a trophy. He's never scored in a final for club or country. To say that he will go his whole career without winning a trophy is crazy, because he will win a trophy, I'm sure of it. But if he just gets a league or an FA Cup with Spurs, it's an absolute travesty for a player of that quality. For a player who, for the best part of a decade, has been there or thereabouts the best striker in the world. For him only to come away with a league or an FA Cup, it would be shocking. And I think that Kane will be waking up, and when he processes this over the next few days, we're having to think about what he's actually going to do. Because it's easy for me to say as an Arsenal fan, oh yeah, leave Spurs, it's not the right club for you. But oh my days, I don't know what he's going to do. He, this summer, will have 1 year left on his contract. So previously he had, 3 years or so when he tried to leave or move out of the club. Now he's kind of the one that, holds the chips a little bit more. And if it doesn't, come into fruition this summer, he can potentially leave for free next year, and you hear rumours of the likes of Bayern Munich and all that sort of thing. Maybe he'll want that Premier League all-time goals record, but I think that is nothing in comparison with winning trophies. Personally, I'd rather be a Sergio Aguero than an Alan Shearer. I'd rather have the trophies to match rather than just the goals record. Could be different for Kane, but I don't think it is. I do think he wants to win the trophies, and he said that in the past. The Man City ship's, gone off now. Don't think United will be enough of a tempting option for him. So we'll see what comes of it. But he does need to do quite a lot of thinking, and I think this is the sort of thing that catalyses those sorts of processes in your mind to figure out what next. And also, I just want to touch a little bit on Gareth Southgate, because it's a weird one with Southgate. He's outperformed every England manager since Alf Ramsey in '66, but he still gets touted as somewhat of a PE teacher, of a lower level manager, really. In 2018, the country was eulogising about Gareth Southgate because no one expected, as I said before, to get to the semi-final. The way we'd gone out at that time and in the Euros, in retrospect, was poor, because we should have beaten Croatia and we should have beaten Italy, and on both occasions we shouldn't have taken a lead and just tried to sit on it. But I don't know what Gareth does now. I do wonder if he's gone as far as he can with this England team. And I don't actually blame him at all for how we went out last night. But I think that, Kane's going to be 33 at the next World Cup. It'll be his last World Cup. Most likely. Last World Cup at the peak of his powers at the very least. He could do another one after that, like Ronaldo has, but I'm not sure. And I think that this England team's at a real crossroads. We need to see now what the FA do. They won't push Southgate out, and Southgate's always said he doesn't want to outstay his welcome. So we need to now figure that one out. I personally wouldn't mind seeing a change come in. I'm not against seeing a foreign manager come in. I think that there's such a dearth of quality with international managers out there, really, that getting the likes of a Pochettino, a Tuchel, or my personal preference, an Arsene Wenger in there would be beneficial, because we've got so many creative, exciting players out there. Why not make best use of them where possible? I just want to round it off by saying that I feel flat, obviously, about going out of the World Cup, and there's always a moment with England, isn't there? There's the Saka penalty miss. There's all the drama against Croatia. There's a Ronaldo wink. There's the Germany Lampard goal that didn't quite go, wasn't deemed to go over the line. And with this one, it's the Harry Kane penalty. There's always that moment with England. I don't know what's going to happen now. I feel flat. but I don't feel let down. I'm proud that the lads, you know, played that 4-3-3. I think that's a really good move. And hopefully Argentina can bring it home now. I'd like to see Messi win it if it's not England. Bit of a flat one today, to be honest with you. Sorry there's been such a lack of videos recently, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. I can't actually keep up with the speed of the World Cup, because I on several occasions I went to film a video and and then by the time I'd recorded it, it was out of date, or by the time I would have been able to upload it, it would have been out of date. So that's kind of the reason behind that. You know, I see this channel as a portfolio of my work rather than something I can use to explode into the mainstream. But yeah, I wanted to get a few things off my chest. I don't know if I've made any sense. It's a bit rambling. I've literally got no notes for this one. Usually I'm like kind of scanning around and all that sort of thing. But it's literally, you know, 9:30 the day after the game, so I thought best to capture my thoughts now. Anyway, I've rambled for long enough. I hope you all have a cracking day and see you next time.